Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is John Mann, Director of Education for Lakeside, and our speaker this afternoon is Aaron Smith. Smith is the CEO of the Energy and Environmental Building Alliance, which represents a community of over 50,000 builders and their stakeholders across North America who are truly the early adapters and innovators in driving the sustainable transformation of the home building industry. Smith has over 25 years of experience in home construction, building products, sustainability, and nonprofit board leadership. He completed his undergraduate studies at West Point and is a 2016 graduate of the Yale University MBA program with a focus on sustainability. And this program provides an overview of rising consumer sentiment towards sustainable housing and the current net positive, net zero, and zero energy ready market trends in both single and multi-family housing. Learn the top 10 things you can implement to build a net zero home now and the value this may provide for the larger community. And as always, I was asked we would please mute your cell phone ringers and help me in welcoming Aaron Smith.
Hey, thank you, John. Can you hear me okay? Great. Well, special thanks to John and Lakeside for having me. And then a shout out to Frank Windsor, who I think introduced us, John. And I'm really excited to get a chance to spend some time with all of you today. So I have the pleasure of being the CEO of the Energy and Environmental Building Alliance. And our belief, you can see the tagline there, is that how we build our homes is how we build our future. I also have Greensmith Builders and Development, and we develop all electric net positive projects focused primarily around the Minneapolis market. So I'm going to take you through, and I think we'll do questions at the end. But we wanted to talk today about kind of the top 10 sustainability trends that you need to think about right now, and a lot of what we're seeing in the market. But I think the biggest thing that I can tell you is I really believe that every home needs a roadmap to net zero. And we've probably all seen the numbers, but about 40% of global carbon emissions come from real estate, whether it's our homes, our schools, the places where we worship, healthcare facilities, and it's very significant in our sector, and that's whether it's through operational use in the building or from embodied emissions from the construction materials, which we can talk a little bit more about later. But I kind of think that every asset, every home, every builder, every school, probably Lakeside, should have a roadmap to net zero in order to remain relevant, in order for that building to maintain its value in the future. So it's really interesting what we're seeing out there in the marketplace. Boy, I keep hearing all this stuff about how, electric vehicles aren't doing well. But I don't know about you, but when I drive around, I just keep noticing, like, it seems like 30% of the cars now in Minneapolis are electric vehicles. And maybe we're a cutting edge market, but I sure don't think so. I think we're pretty standard marketplace. But what we're seeing in housing is that a house like this is the new kind of conspicuous consumption. So people are looking to value signal. They're looking to live their values in their home. They're doing solar, they're doing battery storage, they're doing EVs, they're doing maybe a smart grid or nano grid or microgrid in their homes. No added degree of formaldehyde, healthy energy recovery ventilators throughout the home, MERV 16 level filters. So we're seeing more and more of this, particularly as younger people enter the marketplace for new homes. And I think the data backs this up, that 42% of the homeowners now want to be seen as someone who buys eco-friendly products. And the millennials and Gen Z, they are environmentally conscious. They're seeking energy conservation. They like open spaces. They want walking trails and sustainability in their home choices. And that comes from a study that Forbes just did. The other interesting thing, and this is a study that EBA had done with probably 40 or 50 of our builders across the country, that 72% believe their house has a moderate to strong impact on their health. And that makes sense because I don't know if you've seen some of the data, but I think now we spend 90 plus percent of our time indoors. Particularly during COVID, we were isolated indoors, and people view a high performance home as a healthier home. So we'll talk today about kind of a roadmap to net zero. And this is a lot of the work that Frank Windsor and I had done in the past and that EBA continues to work on. Frank previously with Team Zero. But it's that there's these different steps, right? Of course, we want a code minimum house. I always call code minimum the house that's barely legal in your state or city. Uh, we may want to step up to a high performance home and then go to a zero energy ready home. So that's a home that's set up to have solar or batteries in it. We may want to go to a zero net energy home that uses as much energy or produces as much energy as it uses over the course of a year. We may then want to decarbonize our emissions from our home and go to a zero energy, all electric home. And then kind of the final stage would be zero carbon homes where we don't have any emissions and we perhaps have accounted for and offset as much as possible the embodied emissions in our homes. So we'll talk more about this as we go through, but this is kind of what we see as the pathway to zero. At EBA, we're really a big tent, so we welcome people at any stage they're at. We want people to join the journey, and we want to help them get as far as they'd like to go. But we make no, demands. You don't have to get a tattoo that says I'm going to do this or do that. But I think we've got some really great education and a great support group for getting as far as you would like to go. So let's, back to the homeowners. These homeowners are not buying just because the homes are high performance, but high performance is a key piece of the value proposition builders need to deliver on. So again, I think what we tell builders is if you don't have a plan to get to at least zero energy ready homes in the next several years, you probably start to become irrelevant with certain subsets of buyers. So one of the things that Team Zero previously and now EBA does is an inventory of zero energy homes in the United States and Canada. This is our 2022 study. And what it starts to show is a little bit of the geography of zero, where the top rankings by state. And John, where do you see Ohio on here? I don't know. On the state side, I don't see Ohio. Or do you see it? Yeah. So anyway, room for improvement probably a little bit in the great state of Ohio. And then we have the ranking by city. So top cities across the country and how they're doing on zero energy ready units. The interesting thing to me is in the growth that we're seeing. So in the last several years, we've seen about 190% growth in multifamily and single family going net zero. And in single family homes in particular, about 440% growth. So that is pretty incredible growth. Also, since we started this study in 2015, back then we saw about 85% of the houses reporting were zero energy ready, which means they didn't have solar, they didn't have batteries, they were just ready. Perhaps they were a high performance home. In the 2022 report, about 33% of homes were zero energy ready. 50% were zero energy, and 16% were net positive. So just to remember those terms, zero energy ready, just ready for solar or battery. Zero energy, house produces as much energy as it uses over the course of a year. The last case, net positive, the house is a net exporter to the grid, actually produces more energy than it consumes over the course of the year, which is pretty incredible. So huge shift in not only the growth of units, but the shift toward more and more sustainable as we go. I do think some of this is driven by government carrots and sticks. And I think that the biggest carrot we have right now is the Inflation Reduction Act. And those of you that are aware of that, there is $2,500 available to the landowner of the property. Doesn't matter what state you live in, any state is eligible for doing Energy Star. And I would say Energy Star is pretty easy to achieve for a property. The second hurdle would be the Zero Energy Ready Home program. And there's another $2,500 for a total of $5,000 available to houses that do Zero Energy Ready. Then there are some other things. I'll try to point these out as we go through and talk about the different technologies. But there's a HERA and 25C tax credit. So depending on where people qualify, they may be eligible for a tax rebate or a tax credit. And it could be up to $14,400 per homeowner. So some really exciting carrots. On the stick side, of course, we see codes changing pretty quickly. Part of the Inflation Reduction Act is the goal that the federal government has to push the energy code to the 2021 IECC. But you can see that state by state, kind of where things land. But we're just kind of continuing to see the stick part of it, the code part, push forward. So what I tell people is get a plan to get to net zero. You've probably done a HERS rating or have energy raters. I've got a link in the document that John can share for finding an energy rater. Have an energy rater in your team. They will help you be a third-party certifier of the house, whether it's a remodel or new construction, and they will help you capture some of the rebates. Try to do the Energy Star requirements, and I'll share those in a second. Then do Indoor Air Plus. That program from EPA is a really great program for a healthier home. Graduate to the Zero Energy Ready Home program, and then take a look at the Energy Star Next Gen Certified Home and Apartment program. And then you can always go beyond that. There are many great certification programs. We have Green Path up here in Minnesota, the NGBS, National Green Building Standard, the Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design, the FIAS program. I would say we're agnostic to all great programs. We want people to be aware of them. We want them to learn about them and choose the one that's best for them. But I think all of those kind of free government programs have some dollars behind them and are a great place to start. Generally, we see that a Zero Energy Ready home probably has a HERS rating somewhere around below 45. And of course, a net zero home with solar would have a HERS energy rating of 0. So that kind of gives you a benchmark and some of the different programs that are available and some of the monies that are available in the marketplace. So this is the Energy Star program, version 3.1. They are moving to a version 3.2, but you can see some of the requirements there for cooling equipment, for efficiency of heating equipment, for the efficiency of the envelope, windows and doors, air leakage rates for the structure, what water heaters might be. They want a programmable thermostat. We want all ducts and air handlers within conditioned space. And we want Energy Star refrigerators, dishwashers, ceiling fans, and light bulbs on 90% of the project. So again, fairly easy. If people are just starting out, Energy Star is a great first goal to achieve. Then we see this EPA Indoor Air Plus version. Again, this has more to do with the health of the building. So taking care of water, so we don't have mold, mildew, water damage to the house. Radon resistance, seeing more and more radon testing and requirements for their passive or active radon. Keeping relative humidity below 60%. Uh, Clothes dryers vented outdoors or plumbed to a drain. So different great things to follow in a checklist format uh, for having a healthier home. Then we get to the Zero Energy Ready Home program that uses the first two programs as a baseline, but then gets a little bit more stringent on its requirements. So the duct system must be inside the envelope, has some requirements for water efficiency, including potentially 1.28 gallon per flush toilets. All appliances are Energy Star. Uh, Bathroom ventilation and ceiling fans are Energy Star. It's previously certified under Indoor Air Plus. So some great guidelines in that program. And again, another $2,500 to do that. If you start to boil it all down, what are we talking about for really sustainable homes today? And some of this is my experience and my opinion on it, but I think you want to target. So this is a blower door test. I think you want to target a 1.5 ACH 50 on the air tightness for the home. And that requires optimizing insulation and air leaks throughout the home, a blower door test of the home. You could use Aero Barrier, which is a fantastic Ohio company just south of you, to seal up the home. I think all houses should have an energy recovery ventilator, and that is best practice. It is code here in Minnesota, and it's code in Canada, but it has not yet become code in other parts of the country. But that is the fresh air machine of the home. I always say thou shalt have an energy recovery ventilator in your home if you want to do it properly. And really, if you get your air leakage below 3, you really need to have a energy recovery ventilator. So for doing all of these things around weatherization, under the new Inflation Reduction Act, there is a $1,200 tax credit for weatherization. So I'll start to point those out where they're each relevant. So my number 6 tip is, I think we're in the era of you're going to see heat pumps everywhere. Many of us don't know our current refrigerators have a heat pump in them, but there are some incredible new products. I just put in a heat pump air conditioner heater in my house. My old furnace was maybe 85% efficient. My new heat pump air conditioner and heater is 450% efficient. For doing that, you can earn a $2,000 tax credit. There are ground source air conditioners and heaters. So you can put a loop in or a well in, and there's a 30% tax credit available for that. There's a heat pump water heater. Here's a picture of one right here. I just put the Rheem Proterra hybrid in my house. I have it in heat pump only mode. That unit dehumidifies my basement and makes water at about a 400% efficiency level in my home. And that is now available. There is a $2,000 tax credit available for doing heat pump water heaters. Actually, one of my favorite new products is a heat pump dryer. This is a non-vented dryer that condenses, drains the condensate down the plumbing line, but uses a heat pump to dry clothes. I'm finding that the $840 rebate that's available for that heat pump dryer, that you can get a pretty nice unit for about that price. So it would make your heat pump dryer free in the home. There's also all-in-ones. And as I mentioned, they are unvented. One of the biggest causes of fires in homes is the vent of dryers not being cleaned out. This eliminates that, has an ultra-fine capture system inside, and you can remove the lint that's captured every time that you use it. So I think you're going to see the ubiquity of heat pumps. Some of the new EVs all have heat pumps because they're so much more efficient. And I think we're just coming to the point where have a plan. The worst thing that can happen is your furnace goes down or your dryer goes down or water heater, and you're not having a plan to act and put the greenest technology that's available in case something happens. And I think that hopefully there's not too many HVAC people in your audience today, John, but most HVAC people will just come out and put brand X back in. And now you're locked in for another 7 or 15 or 20 years of a really unsustainable product being on your property. I think this is a great place to kind of plan ahead, have a plan to put the new technology in, and then take advantage of some of the rebates that are available. Number 7, I'm a huge believer in this. I mean, we do all electric net zero, net positive projects up here in Minneapolis, which is a cold climate zone. But have an electrification strategy for the house. I love this diagram. It shows a heat pump space heater. It shows an induction cooking range. It has electric vehicle fast chargers in the garage. Has a heat pump water heater, a home battery. The load center has been upgraded. Probably this house, if done correctly, can be what we call off-grid capable. If the grid goes down, as maybe you had with the storms that came through or been coming through this summer, your house can actually operate off grid. I've got the F-150 Lightning, which I always brag about, but that truck will back up my house for 3 to 10 days, depending on my energy use. So what are some of the rebates available if we do an electrification strategy? For an EV, $4,000 to $7,500. Although there's been some changes with the IRS now where maybe you're better off leasing an EV because the manufacturer can take advantage of that. For upgrading electric panel, there's $600 to $4,000 available. Many people are finding that they want to go to 200 amp panels. And there are also some load shedding panels that are available now from Savant and from Span and from Schneider Electric that are really incredible. There's a $2,500 credit for electric wiring. You may need to upgrade to 200 amp and do something new with wiring or wire to the garage for EV chargers to future-proof your house. $2,500 available there. There's $1,000 available for putting in an EV charger. I mean, I think not having an EV charger in a house is kind of like not having a microwave. There's a point where none of us had microwaves, but I think that not having an EV charger will be like, why doesn't this house have an EV charger in it? I'm going to have to put one in. So some money available for that. Rooftop solar has been extended and enhanced. So it's now a 30% tax incentive for putting in rooftop solar. And that's kind of been guaranteed for the next 10 years. And then for battery storage. So in order to make your house off-grid capable, you have to have some sort of battery to buffer the house between the solar and the demand. But there's a 30% tax incentive for batteries as well. So I would say check with your CPA or your favorite accounting software for what this means to you individually. But there's some great incentives available. One of the other things I wanted to talk about, I just got an induction cooktop. So induction or electric cooktops, there's an $840 rebate available for those. And induction cooking to me is like an EV is to an internal combustion engine. It is better, faster, and easier to clean the top of it. You can boil water in about 58 seconds on an induction cooktop. So I think we'll see this technology, which has been in Europe and Asia for many, many years. I think we'll see this come in pretty strongly in the United States. But you can always do an cooktop as well, or oven as well. And then electric fireplaces. We're seeing a lot of, this is a picture of an electric fireplace. Looks beautiful. And doesn't cause some of the indoor air quality issues that perhaps we saw with wood-burning fireplaces inside of a residence. I think you should consider that. So here's a great resource. And again, you'll get these slides from John. But this is Rewiring America, and they're an inflation reduction calculator. So you could see there's tax credits on the left and rebates on the right. Kind of depends which income level people are at, but what's available for battery storage or an electric panel, an EV charger, a heat pump water heater, heat pump clothes dryer, weatherization, or efficiency rebates. And almost all of these are available today. So great resource there to find out what may work for you and your family. And don't forget, have a healthy home strategy as well. So indoor air quality in our homes is 2 to 5, can be 2 to 5 times as harmful as outdoor air, particularly with gas burning fireplaces, stovetops, interior finishes, releasing chemicals that are trapped, and poor ventilation systems. This is why I say it's so critical to have an energy recovery ventilator. So the projects I do, I always think it's funny when you build an all electric home. By code, I still have to put carbon monoxide detectors in the homes, but there's no carbon monoxide that will be present in the home unless it was from some third party source, because the appliances in that electric home are not going to hurt anyone. So what I do in my projects, we're free of carbon powered appliances. We're free of off-gassing or outgassing materials, no added degree of formaldehyde, carb 2 compliant cabinets and particle board and wood floors, outfitted with advanced mechanical ventilation and air purification systems. I generally go for a MERV 16 or HEPA level filter in houses with whole house filtration. And then there's some great sensor technology. I mean, I think one of the things that really convinced me on this was I got a smart sensor, was hooked to my iPhone. Every time I would cook on my gas cooktop, that thing it would go red and sound an alarm because I was kicking some NOx into the house. So ensure you have clean, fresh, and healthy air throughout the home. I think and this is kind of the advanced stage, but have a resiliency plan. I grew up in Minnesota. I think until I was about 14, I thought my name was Get Wood because that's all my dad said to me is go get some more wood. Because in the 1978, 79, we converted our oil furnace to a gas furnace. But in that interim, we use wood to heat most of our house. But think about resiliency. I think all electric net zero is fantastic, but you want to have a plan to back up your house and back up water, back up energy, life safety systems. You can do that more and more with battery backup on solar and well. Houses can be off grid capable. But one of the quotes I say is that perhaps the most important carbon in our house is our homeowners. And we want to make sure that they're safe, that they've got heating, that they've got air conditioning, that they've got water, that they can survive perhaps a grid outage. So you may have to burn a little bit of carbon to provide that life safety factor, or it could be biomass backup as well. But think about health and resilience. I think they're the most critical thing in the homes that we do. And then kind of the final thing is you can do an embodied carbon reduction analysis. So EBA has supported EC3, which is the embodied carbon in construction calculator tool, as well as the BEAM tool, which is a building evaluation assessment method tool. We've got some training modules online. What this allows you to do is look at perhaps several different types of insulation and see which one has the least amount of embodied carbon, different types of drywall, different ways of doing concrete, different types of shingle product or flooring product or window product. John, did you have something? Okay. And then we have developed the eba.ecomedes.com database, and this will allow you to go in and look for products that have environmental product declarations and are sharing what their carbon footprint might be. So that's the graduate level course, but that's where we're seeing people head in the marketplace today, is starting to get rid of operational carbon and starting to look at embodied carbon and make some thoughtful choices about what types of materials they use in their houses. So just a couple, or maybe one example. So this is a net positive Victorian. It's a remodel. The Whittier neighborhood is a couple blocks from my house. And I just thought it was such a great inspiration that I share it a lot. I was not part of it. I don't know the folks that did it. I just think it's just such a great product. So this house has run net positive, which means it creates more energy than it uses in its first year of operation. It produced 5,000 more kilowatt hours of electricity than it's used. It had extensive and innovative insulation, efficient geothermal heat pump. The gas line was disconnected. I'm telling you, this is like the new bragging rights. If you can, and I'm getting close at my house to disconnecting my gas line. The house is all electric, and it produces $3,000 worth of electricity per year while offsetting 12 tons of carbon. Now, we have a little friendlier net metering laws in Minnesota than what I understand that you have in Ohio. But this is pretty neat that you can make about $3,000 a year from your energy systems. So great example of a retrofit. Some of the other studies show that high performance homes, because they're in demand, that there's an increased value. So going green can raise the price of your home. And in one study this was actually in Texas, it was about $24,000 in increased value by going green. So what's EBA doing about it? We really want to educate and come together and learn and share and collaborate with others on how to do this and what some of the best practices are. We have it's actually over 300 hours now of online education. Most of that is free. So if you've taken notes today, and you'll get a chance to ask me some questions, but if you go, wow, I want to learn more about heat pump water heaters, we probably have 3-4 hours of education on heat pump water heaters. If you want to learn more about induction cooktops, go to eba.org to the EBA Academy, learn about induction cooktops, learn about energy recovery ventilators, learn about battery storage, learn about all these great things. So really great place to learn, share, and collaborate with some of the best in the industry. We also have some certification courses like a zero energy building professional. We have a net zero carbon building professional. We have a houses that work course. We have a site supervisor course, many, many hours of training to share best practices. And then if you're so inclined and you want to come visit us in Salt Lake City, October, it's actually October 1st. Yeah, sorry, I grabbed the old slide here. October 1st through 3rd is the 2024 summit in Salt Lake City. That's a great summit with probably 42 hours of courses, some great manufacturers there sharing new product. And in 2025, if it's closer to you, we'll be back in St. Paul, Minnesota. So that is a quick overview. And John, I think we can open it up for questions that anyone has.
Perfect. Thank you, Aaron.
Hello, Aaron. It's Frank Baker.
Well, hey, Frank.
Those are pretty impressive numbers. I have not been paying enough attention to what's been going on at EBA for the last couple of years, and I didn't realize the penetration of net zero homes. I wonder if you could comment a little bit more on that growth rate and what's causing it. I know we know that part of it is due to incentives from the government, but I can't believe that that's the real reason why these numbers are expanding so fast. First of all, you've got to have some real serious interest in this subject to drive that.
Yeah, and sorry, Frank. I have another friend, Frank Windsor, and I called you Frank Windsor earlier, and I apologize for that. I just realized that. But it's great to see you. Frank Baker, one of the great leaders in the industry. Frank, thanks for everything you've done. Uh, I mean, I think the data that we're seeing, Frank, I always said we never, EBA's been around 42 years. We had more of the super regional builders, I would say. Maybe it was SIP builders or somebody like Karis Homes out of Canton, East Canton, Ohio, that was just doing great work, but maybe did 50 homes a year or 75 homes a year or something like that. And really, in the last year, we have 7 of the top 20 builders in the United States and Canada that are participating in EBA. And many of those builders have set goals to do zero energy ready home programs. And I think there's a myriad of factors, Frank, of some investor demand. There being some environmental and sustainability goals from their investors, and then wanting to see that reflected in the building. So when the big builders are setting goals for sustainability, that really helps move the market in a pretty substantial way. And I think you're right, Frank. It's not all because of rebates. I heard an interesting, Frank, I think you know Daryl McMaster down in Texas, and he builds off grid capable homes. And I said, Daryl, how are you doing this down in Texas? And he said, Aaron, 15% of my customers are environmentalists. He said 25% are preppers. So you got kind of both sides of the spectrum there, right? He said, but 60% are economists. And they look at the numbers and they say, wow, I could own my electric system. I could have a guaranteed electricity rate for the next 20 or 30 or 40 years and not pay the kind of increases that we're seeing. And Frank, I don't know if you've been reading about AI, but the amount of energy that's being used by data centers across America right now is actually pretty terrifying. So people just look at the economics of it and say, I'd rather own my means of production on my house. It's a tax write-off on my mortgage. It's cheaper to operate. It's more resilient. So I think there's a lot of different reasons. And I guess the big thing, Frank, is that if you look at the Canadian builders are doing it as well, and they don't have any of these rebates that are available to us in the United States. So we're seeing it on both sides of the border. And I think it's just people are looking at the economics of it. They're looking at their values and they're saying, this is the kind of house that I want to live in. Any follow on there, Frank?
Well, that certainly was my motivation when we did our house. And we're doing it on our house here in Lakeside too. And I don't know if you're aware or not, but there's the Lakeside Environmental Stewardship Society, of which I'm current president. And we're doing exactly what you laid out there, a checklist for which the what's called the HPDRB, which basically is the approval agent for projects here within Lakeside. And they had just adopted this checklist to begin with. But the next steps are quite obvious. We want to get to certifications of various sorts. I mean, if you're going to do this, why not get certified? It's a quality control program, really.
That's right. Yeah, and I think the certifiers will do a lot of the paperwork that's required for qualifying for some of the grant dollars, which is great. But yeah, I would tell everybody, do whatever Frank does. Frank probably knows more about it than I do.
Does your organization do any lobbying with state governments? I know some states like Florida, where I live, seems to work at cross purposes to the U.S. system of rebates and whatnot.
Yeah. What we do is educate and bring everybody together. We are a 501c3. And we cannot lobby because of that C3 status as a nonprofit. You would have to create a C6 entity to be able to lobby. So we don't lobby per se, but we definitely try to bring all of the leaders in the country together and have them be a voice for and I think to your question, the construction industry has probably always been resistant to change. So here at EBA, we have a group of 50,000 that are saying, no, we support and not any change or change for change's sake, but I think most of the EBA community are innovators and early adopters and are saying, oh, I mean, why wouldn't you put a heat pump water heater in? Makes all the sense in the world. Like we should do that. So that's a quick answer on our 501c3 status. Other questions?
There is one moment.
John, you have any questions?
Uh, this is a question on a little different note related to the new construction. Lately, because of the environmental changes, we're seeing every week on the news just hundreds of homes devastated with high winds, tornadoes, and so forth. Is anybody doing anything to make new designs more resistant to this or provide at least safe rooms in a home?
Yeah, there is I didn't talk about it today, but there is a system, a certification program called Fortified that was developed by the Institute for Insurance Health and Safety. I think it's IIHS. So the insurance industry obviously does not want to lose homes. So the Fortified system creates fortified roofs that can resist hurricane and tornado damage. I think we're seeing, I live in tornado zone, and we've been putting what's called hurricane clips and hurricane straps on our houses since I've been building for 30 years. But we're seeing tornadoes move east as the weather changes, and those codes aren't prevalent there. So I think the fortified system gives a great way of how to make a house more resilient. And then there are some codes on how to build a tornado shelter within a structure, or there are tornado structures that can be bolted to the foundation within homes with triple bolting locks, and they're tested up to 200 miles per hour and hurricane proof doors. So there's some different strategies on the storm resilience side that you can definitely check out.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Aaron. Thank you.
John, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Great seeing everyone. Frank, great seeing you. Thank you so much.
Have a great day.